Matt, I think you're muted.
And we're back. Thank you. Welcome to What's Next. And for those of you who missed all that wonderful introduction, my name is Matthew Quinn. And we are looking at venues. What's next with venues? As many of you know, when the pandemic hit in mid-March, all venues across the nation, across the world started closing, much like other businesses. However, due to the nature of venues, venues are taking longer to open up and are causing many challenges for their venue owners. Today, I'm very excited to be bringing in two venue managers, one from LA, one from New York City, who have really been warriors in the cause of venues, or doing everything they can to keep the venue open, as active as it can be active, and supporting their artists and their audience. So I'd like to take some time to introduce our two guests. First, coming in from New York City, I'd like to introduce Erez Ziv, who is the artistic director of FRIGID New York, the managing director at Horse Trade, founding board member of the Indie Space, and the founding board member of the League of Independent Theaters. You run the Crane and Under St. Mark's, and that's right in New York City proper, correct?
Yep, Lower East Side.
Lower East Side. All right. And then on the other side of the nation, I've got Bryan Rasmussen of the White Fire Theater. Bryan has been the recipient of the 2016 Valley Theater Award for Artistic Director, and he is now in the 16th year as Artistic Director of the White Fire. You're a director, you've been acting for many years, and you are also, I see here, a proud member of the Actors Gym. So thank you, both of you, for joining us today. Both your venues have been around for a long time, and I'm really curious to hear what has kind of happened since mid-March. Kind of talk us through what happened to you once the pandemic hit. And let's start with Erez.
We just finished our FRIGID festival, our biggest festival of the year. The last weekend of that festival, we were like running around with disinfecting everything, putting up signs telling people we're disinfecting all the door handles between shows, thinking that might be doing something. And then everything closed down. And since then, we have taken all the seats out of the theater. We're getting them currently reupholstered. We've installed cameras in the theaters, and we're now streaming work from inside. We have some regular shows that happen every week. We've done 2 festivals. We've been producing lightly since March. We used to do an average season of 1,000 shows.
Wow.
And now we've got 3 shows a week.
Wow. But you're doing shows.
But we're doing shows, and we're figuring out how to do it. It looks like we're going to be here for a while in whatever this is. So we're just coming up with creative ways to still do something akin to what we do. What we actually do is bring people together in a room, which is currently illegal in the city of New York.
Yes. Are they allowing, and we'll talk more about, you brought up some interesting points of what you're doing. Is it illegal for you to even have rehearsals or auditions or anything?
That depends which lawyer you ask.
Okay.
Yesterday at 1:30 in the afternoon, they put out new guidelines that now include low-risk indoor cultural activity. No one has defined what
that
cultural activity is as of yet, but we have on a nod that rehearsals are okay from the city, but nothing in writing, nothing spelled out anywhere. So.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's some good information to get out there to people. And I'll use that to actually segue to Bryan. To hear your kind of startup story. And I'll start, I don't know if you knew this, I guess in LA, you can now have auditions and rehearsals in and shoot film, you have to follow all the film rules, but still no classes legally. So something I did not know until today.
Yeah, I didn't know that, rehearsals could happen. I mean, I just was in a meeting yesterday, and none of them knew that as well. So as far as I know, or knew, but you might know something new.
Yeah, I will forward you the email I got from somebody who got it from the city.
Oh, great. Please do. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So all that slight segue there. Tell us about what your mid-March was like and what you've been doing.
Well, like Erez, we were finishing up Solo Fest, which is the largest solo festival on, second largest in the United States. We were doing 80 shows in 90 days. We got to about 70 and, had to close. We had already been streaming. We first streamed a show back in 2011. And we had been, just dealing with the medium for a while now. Part of Solo Fest, we were able to stream 40 of those solo shows. So we got a lot of work, rehearsal of that, and run throughs of shows and getting that all worked out. And the tweaking, we were just talking about all the tweaking that's involved with this kind of medium, sound, camera. But the interesting thing for us is, and I'd be interested to hear what Erez says about his side, is that, there's an inherent resistance to camera in theater. So it's an issue that has to be dealt with because people have a negative connotation a lot of times that are purists of theater about it. And I have a huge background in theater, but I also work in film and television as an actor. And so I was out trying to figure out a better way to shoot theater and do this. My about 4 or 5 years ago, I visited my family up in Northern California, and I have a nephew who's a Facebook producer film at Facebook, and they own the VR Oculus company and stuff, and so he brought one of those headsets up, and I put that thing on, and it was mind blowing, and the technology involved, and I just started thinking about how that could be working with theater in some form, even though we're not virtual. It just got me thinking about what the technology could bring us and everything. So finally, like I said, we then did a stream with Working with Bobby Moresco, Oscar winner, and did that back in 2017. And had a lot of big company and equipment and cameras and stuff, and there's a whole switcher device that switches the cameras live and all that kind of stuff, and ultimately it's just too much equipment and cost prohibitive for the amount of people that need to man the whole thing. So we were able to deal with a single camera that's run through an iPad and in a front row center perspective. So you're able to sit front row center for this. And that kind of made a difference because a lot of shows before this all happened, if they did have a camera, they were shooting from the sides and editing, or from the back and doing a master shot, and all the actors were blown out and stuff. And, people just didn't have a very good opinion of streaming or filming video. But I'd seen, some good stuff. And the solo shows, it's that connection, that intimacy that we're trying to create, similarly, not certainly the same as live theater. And it took us a while to keep tweaking it and getting the quality of the camera, because just like jazz with the sound, actors and filmmakers need the quality of the picture, and tweaking that. And we always have to tweak it for every show because of the complexion of each of the actors, and we had to come in and bring new lighting and stuff, and light for camera rather than stage. We have kept our seats in there just because it's set up really great for that. So we're just continuing to do solo shows indefinitely. We have a lot. We've gotten a bunch over the years done, like probably he said, probably over 1,000 solo shows we've done, and so we're just gonna try and just keep streaming and try and keep live theater live. I mean, that's the thing with live streaming. Not very much really works with live sports, of course, improv, theater, some music, magic. Those things are great for live. And so, theater, that's what we do. So I think that really kind of, changed it rather than they're filming the National Theater and Broadway HD and stuff. They're filming it live, but they're not streaming it live. And,
right.
We're streaming live. And so that kind of changed the ball game and stuff. So, that's kind of what we're focusing on. We have already streamed about 25 productions since middle of May. We had to wait for a couple of months till the mayor gave us the mandate that, relaxed it a little bit. So we didn't want to, we could have started the next day, like he was saying. We could have started, we were already set up. We could have started streaming immediately, but we didn't want to force artists out of their house that felt badly and didn't want to know and were scared.
Right.
We didn't want to stream in a bad light. It's not what we're about. But we did want to just keep doing it because we knew we could. It's a very complex horizon with different unions and stuff. So we've been dealing with that for quite a while, and have gone our own path, and that's why we're able to do what we do. It's exciting because of what it can bring for the actor, Matt. We were talking about the ability to expose your theater to a global audience, and that I think is what theater has needed. We certainly need a stream of income, a fundraising situation. As you know, most theaters are nonprofits. We are not. We are a brick and mortar ticket sales company, co-production type of situation. But like my colleague was saying, we have kind of turned it in now to a streaming studio. That's all we do because, frankly, no one knows when this will get back into an audience situation. We're thinking we might be able to get a quarter of a house sometime in the middle of the festival in the spring, maybe. But we're certainly not planning on it. We're planning on streaming the entire festival and, go from there.
Go for it. Yeah, and I saw Erez react to that date, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Some excellent points in there. I just want to say, Bryan, it's wonderful that you really were ahead of the curve on this because you had been doing it so long. And you hit on an interesting point that I want to bounce off Erez. Because this has been out there, like, is this theater? And the importance of it being live. Yeah. And I know you're shooting it live, but you can also get them like on demand afterwards. Erez, how are you running your shows, and how do you feel about that live element?
I prefer live. Everything we do has elements of live, elements of pre-recorded, some things from our venue, some things from people's house. It's a really healthy mix of all these things. For me, theater is not necessarily the live portion, but the people in the room. Like I go to watch a show, I watch the audience almost more than I watch the show. For me, it's about the reaction of the audience, and that's the piece that I'm missing. Whether it's live or pre-recorded or whatever, it's the audience portion that makes it, for me, theater. But I've been kind of staying out of the debates on whether it's theater, not theater. It's that's not. It's the only thing we can do.
Right.
It's a form of expression that is available to us now.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you got to keep it going. And I mean, financially to keep your businesses up. And then what about the audiences? Are you using this to keep in touch with people? Are you reaching out? How are you guys keeping in touch with your community, audience and artistic?
We started out more concerned with our artistic community. And, the product we were putting out in the first couple of weeks, first couple of months was not top notch. Technically, we were still figuring out, there's Zoom and there's StreamYard and there's Vimeo and there's YouTube and there's Facebook, and things look different on all these things. The sound, the lights, it was a lot to figure out. And we didn't want to just go out there and invite our audience to come see things as we were working them out. And at this point, we've started sending newsletters. We started inviting people. The last show we did Friday night, we had 1,000 views before the show even ended, which was
Wow,
incredible. It was
that's great.
a record for us. Yeah. And so it's slowly developing into something that we can actually invite people to, sell tickets to, things like that. But we've never done this. We've
Right.
done theater. This is like we're learning how to run a TV station
Yeah.
on the fly, without school, without resources, without mentors, without it's just try to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're doing it, man, and you're building that audience, which is great. Bryan, how about you? You're obviously the artists are being taken care of. Are you doing then a reach out to the community, or you doing any other types of reach out, or is it solo shows?
It's just solo shows. I mean, that's the only content that is owner operated, non-licensed content that we can film and have it be a safe environment. There's only about 3 of us in the entire building doing the show, and then the performer. So we're distanced and and all that stuff. Our theater luckily is sound buffered, so it's like a studio in there. So we're really fortunate with the sound situation to be able to use it like a television studio.
Yeah,
Erez was saying, and so that's kind of what we're doing, and also learning as we go. We learn, we laugh all the time because we feel like we learn something new every time we air. And there's something really way more than theater. I don't know why, but something about going live on a camera and everything. That stress is right there, and going, and it's luckily been going well so far, and we're just kind of dealing with that, and our outreach has just been through our e-blast and stuff, and inviting people to come see it. Our big challenge, as we talked about the other day, is the variable of everybody having different hardware, different Wi-Fi, different bandwidth, different stuff, and so it's our broadcast is one situation. How they're dealing with that is a whole nother ballgame. And so that we found that seems to be the one thing that we can't kind of control.
Yeah.
So just try and do as much as we can, remind them, here's the link. And because, they're doing it differently. They're not buying the ticket and going to the box office and getting the program. And, they're at home trying to figure out this whole.
Figure it out.
And,
yeah.
That seems to be what we're trying to do, is get them up to speed as on this journey.
Yeah, we had earlier guests talking about that onboarding, the difficulty, and then kind of a reflection of that. Erez, Bryan, you've been doing it in your space. Erez, I caught a little bit. Most of the acts are coming from home, right? You're streaming them in, or how does that work with you?
So the Wednesday night show, Funny Women of a Certain Age, that one we do from the theater. And
okay.
1 tech person and 3 comics in the building. The comics are masked up when they're sitting and waiting, and they only take their mask off on stage.
Right.
They're each the host has one corner of the stage, the guest has the other corner of the stage. So we keep everybody safely distanced. And this is the only show that is entirely coming from the theater.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, our Frigid Fridays is hosted from the theater, so there's the tech and the host in the theater, and guests are coming from home. Our Tuesday night open mic is hosted from the other theater, and the host is in the theater, and everybody else is coming from home. And then the reparations show is all from remote.
From remote.
Yes.
So you've got the additional problem, like Bryan was talking about with his audience. You've got all these artists who are in various situations, maybe with Ethernet, maybe with not camera, who knows where. So that must be, tech chaos for you.
This is not a scenario for control freaks.
Yeah.
It's just not. There's no control, and people are adapting to that pretty well. Audiences as well. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. Well, and it, you guys were talking backstage in the dressing room, as StreamYard allows, and right away you guys started talking tech, which I always find interesting because, as you said, Bryan, you said both of you're experimenting, you're playing with this. I almost wish I had started the show 3 months ago, and then Erez could have met Bryan before. You guys could have talked tech and all that. It would have been great. Let's talk about some of the platforms. I think you went through learning and playing with it. I think you're both kind of at the same place now. But you mentioned Erez kind of playing with Zoom and StreamYard. Oh, by the way, did you learn that when you start talking, you have to unmute yourself? Did anybody learn that when you? That's a tip for you, Bryan. Next time. Yeah. So Zoom, StreamYard, all that's been used. You can comment a little bit on that, but also both of you guys are now at Vimeo, and I've not discussed that, and so I thought maybe we can hear a little bit about that because it's a little different than the other ones. So, Erez, you want to start with kind of like why you were using Zoom and StreamYard, and then what made you switch to Vimeo?
So we didn't switch to
Vimeo.
Okay,
fair enough.
We're always using a combination. Everything goes to Vimeo. Vimeo is like our, the holding cell for everything. So the open mic we do on Zoom, because that requires a lot of people to be in the stream communicating with each other. It happens on Zoom, but then Zoom kicks it to Vimeo, and then it's recorded onto Vimeo. Our StreamYard has been amazing. It allows us now to send out 8 different destinations, which is incredible. So everything we do on StreamYard goes to Vimeo, goes to YouTube. If it's a show we're just selling tickets to, then it's a closed YouTube page, and then only if you buy a ticket you get to see it. And if it's a free show, then it's just available on YouTube, and then we also put it on Facebook. And if it's a show that we're doing in conjunction with another company, it also goes to their Facebook and to their YouTube. It's really amazing. When we started with StreamYard, we were only able to send to 2 destinations.
Right.
Now with 8, it's like it's wonderful.
That's kind of like the program Restream I've heard about, where it basically it sends it out to everyone.
Yeah, except for StreamYard has everything in it. You don't need to then use another thing. It just kicks it out from there to wherever. Yeah.
So then, Bryan, you and Erez kind of mentioned this, the paywall structure. You're actually using Vimeo kind of as like a Netflix or a distribution center with a paywall. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, like Erez said, we are Vimeo is our database of our library. We are going through our website for tickets and stuff like that, because the challenge of all of this is monetization of the format. So Facebook Live doesn't do it, YouTube doesn't do it, a lot of them won't do it, Twitch, no. So we landed on this situation. My tech guy, Brandon Loser, he is pretty great tech wise, and he just looked into a lot of different things and decided that this was the way to go. And they're able to handle a lot of data and stuff, which is important. And the picture and everything what we've worked with so far has been good. The challenge, I think, has been the tickets companies and getting that all set up as well, because each of them are different. It's not like you just need your name at the box office to get let in. You actually have to get the link that comes in the ticket, and then they have to click on the link, and then there's a little bit more process to that. And it's getting everybody familiar with that. Invariably, we're always going to get a number of last minute, I can't get on, something's wrong, we don't know. And because of that situation, we know pretty quickly whether it's our issue or their issue. If everybody can't get on, then it's definitely our issue. But if it's 1 or 2 people, then we know it's just their they have to refresh or something like that. And it's that kind of stuff. But it's like I said, it's something different every night, and it's the stress level is pretty high. But it's like anything. It's exciting, it's invigorating, it works, and people are loving it, and they're responding well to it. We broadcast all over the world. And I think people are interested in theater all over the world, and there's a handful of theater nerds in every town. So we're just trying to get out to them, and all that with no budget or advertising ability. We're just kind of taking it slow. Like Erez was saying, that we wanted to make sure that we tried to stream quality content as much as possible, and kind of have a slow opening, as opposed to a big, huge thing. And even though our first show was really a fantastic, great quality show, we spent about 3 or 4 days relighting, reteching, getting it ready, because it was a very tight, intimate type of piece about Christian Brando. So that kind of was our starting, and then we just had to keep trying to keep streaming and keep the quality good, because that was the big thing, and people's feedback on it was a daily thing, and what was good, what didn't work, what issues they had, and so we were trying to tweak it pretty much on a daily basis, and still do, just trying to make it a flawless type of situation. But of course, there's just so many elements, and our situation does the same thing, that it sends it out to multiple platforms, but we only send it to, we record it on our chip so that we have backup for that. And then, of course, it goes into the Vimeo library. And then we just go to our website through Vimeo. And that's how that goes. I mean, we could do YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But again, we just don't, just because we're making it kind of, a private type of performance rather than a public performance.
Well, that paywall, you need to collect that money.
It's the only way we could survive. That's why we had to
That's
do it.
it.
Most of the theaters that I'm dealing with, they're all nonprofit and funded and stuff. So they have funds, and they've certainly gotten some grants through this whole situation. So they're able to survive. But us, we had to figure it out right away. I had to have the come to Jesus meeting pretty quickly with myself to figure out if this was the end, or, I could survive. And I had to do a lot of, late night brainstorms, and tried to figure out if this was going to work, and crunching numbers and stuff. And I'm an actor, so there's no deep pockets on my end. It's purely ticket sales that sell our situation. So it was a lot of white knuckling to see if it could work, and it does. It works. And so that's kind of where I'm just moving forward, and just taking it like that, pretty much.
Well, I'm going to get back to you on how that's working. And I'm sorry to hear that, like, that Sons of Anarchy and Mentalist check isn't enough to cover the whole rent. But Erez, I saw you during Bryan's talk about tickets kind of nodding your head. And I've got actually a comment from Bryan Rasmussen about the producer of a Zoom show failing to give me the link to the show until it already started. Thank you for that comment, Bryan. What has your experience been with online ticket sales, and what companies are you guys using, and does that help with marketing? But Erez, what have you been doing?
We're selling tickets through our own website, and those people are relatively easy to get to, although it took us some programming to be able to get the right links to the right people at the right time.
Right.
But we're also using some third-party vendors, and that's challenging. We get a list, and then we got to send the list, and some third-party vendor audiences are better at internet than others. It can be problematic, but we've managed to get the links to everybody most of the time on time. And the nice thing about the way this is working is if they don't get the link on time, they can hop on whenever, and then see the show in its entirety later. It's recorded.
Oh, I see. Right. Of course.
Deep link, and they can see it at their leisure.
Right.
There's this built-in backup.
Yeah, right. Versus somebody like Bryan even commented his aftermath comments like, and I paid it for the day in advance. Like, these people are paying money, and it's like when you show up to a theater and the door's locked.
Right.
But the in-house probably makes, and you've got to send out that link a few minutes before. Like, you've got your new little dance that you do for the box office. Is that it?
Yeah. For us, it's automatic now. The in-house link on our website, it just sends, I think, an hour or a half hour before the show. it sends them the link. We just have to make sure that the right link is in the cell that it's sending. It's worked out most of the time.
I love the baby steps when you talk about, like, every time it's like you're getting just a little better. You're learning just something new.
We're learning from scratch. Like everything we used to do is not what we do now.
Yeah.
There's nothing of the original structure, the thing that we've been learning for over 20 years how to do.
Yeah.
None of it is happening.
Yeah.
All brand new.
Yeah.
It took us a while to figure out the first time, and it's taken a while this time too.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Bryan over here has been doing this for several years, so he had a little leg up on us. So I'm impressed. That's all with all respect. What are you doing for do you have any names of companies that you recommend for people that may not have in-house ticket system? Is there anybody that you would kind of suggest?
Well, it's just like a market. They're different services, different costs. We were with Eventbrite. With Brown Paper Tickets, and then they had a collapse during this, and so we then went to Eventbrite, but we had issues and they were expensive and all that kind of stuff. And the link was at the bottom of the scroll of the ticket, so literally you had to scroll for quite a while to get to the actual link for the show, and a lot of people couldn't find it. And so now we're on Yap City, which is a online company that Brandon, our tech guy, has been using for a number of years with his big hit show Fantasia. And they're inexpensive and they seem to be working. Again, this is always a day-to-day situation of trying to make it all work. But right now, but like Erez was saying, it's I think the best thing is to go through your own. I mean, that's what Brandon was certainly moving towards, and saving costs and stuff. But each situation has different pros and cons, and but that's what we found through ours. And so right now, that's what we're using for any kind of. And Yap City goes through PayPal, and so money.
Oh, that's nice.
Transferred right away, so it's not a delay in getting checks or anything like that. It's immediate. So that's something. Again, I'm not a big tech guy, so this is all
gotcha
and stuff. But I really dig the technology and have been for a number of years. We had some of the most incredible real sets for years and people coming in, but I think with the recession, it pushed us back to more theatrical types of performances and stuff, and black blocks and things and things like that. And I think that's good because I think theater is a different medium other than film and TV, and it has to be presented that way. That's why this camera situation was a challenge, because it wasn't just shooting a theater performance. It was trying to get that connection, the intimate connection between a performer and a live audience. And how to do that and what works best, and again, dealing with that resistance of a lot of theater makers not wanting anything to do with and then you have both unions, they can't make up their minds and who's doing what and that, and so we've dealt with do you want to talk a little bit about that? I saw Erez look like Erez was like, no, I'm taking Erez out. Right. Wait, your mic's muted. What's wrong? Yeah, it's it's unfortunate.
Brian will.
And I'm an actor, and I watched working with Equity for a lot of years, and I was around in part of the whole the meetings and stuff when they were trying to take away the agreement, the 99-seat agreement, and I just watched them negotiate in bad faith over and over and over. I was shocked at how they were handling the whole thing. And then, when they went against their own membership, I knew all bets were off. I was just like, I don't even know what to say. And, the idea of camera situations here in Los Angeles is usually ran by SAG. But once you put a camera inside of a theater, it really blurs the lines. And they can't even figure that out yet. And they're not trying to. Meaning, Equity is I think losing their grasp on the whole situation, and 99, if not 100% of their membership is unemployed right now, and so I had to go on my own and try and figure out my own path, and that's what we're doing, and that's why we're able to do stuff, and almost everybody else cannot. Our thing is non-equity. Our situation is, I'm not a nonprofit, and all that. So we had to kind of go a different path, and so that's what we're doing, and that's why we're able to go the way we're going. And things change on a daily basis. Literally, I know they're changing the contracts for the festival that I'm part of that they wanted to do. I'm trying to figure that out with like a dramatic podcast contract through SAG, and stuff like that. That just becomes unfortunate because our situation is actually a better deal for the actors. They're getting more money. They're getting a better situation and can actually make a chunk of change rather than having it cost an arm and a leg. And that's why I created the Solo Fest, was to help with that, because I had my own solo show and I lost my arm and my leg. I have it back, but it really was painful. And I just set out on trying to find a better way to produce solo theater. And so that's how we came upon what we're doing. And I think streaming is really a way to do that. And I feel that it's a possible, hopeful path to help change that.
Yeah, I agree. And Erez, I don't know, you did you want to add anything on the equity issue?
I haven't heard from them. That's fine by me. Equity, I think, is there. The unions are there to regulate productions that create a product. Our product is our artists. We invest in the artists. We invest in the artists a lot more than the union invests in the artists. Mm-hmm. And it's not like when we start making money off of this work, then by all means come after it. And when we do make money off of the work, then the artists get their share, their fair share. But this isn't a commercial venture, and I don't understand why the unions have anything at all to do with theaters that are 99 seats or less. These are not money-making ventures. This is not a commercial venture. I don't understand why they're involved, and I'm glad they're not involved right now.
Fair enough. Okay, well, moving on. Well said, both of you. Thank you for that. A lot of this information, the stuff that we've been talking about, has been disseminated, I imagine, all across the nation. Theater communities are meeting regularly to discuss these types of things, what to do with the unions, what to do with the space. I'm a little aware with what's going on in LA, but Erez, can you give us an idea of what's that happening in New York? And is that something with the League of Independent Theaters? Is that kind of...
The League of Independent Theaters is always involved there. It's a wonderful organization. They're more leading the way politically. It's organized as a 501c6 as opposed to a 501c3, which means its primary purpose is political activism. It can endorse candidates, it can push political agendas, and it works for our community in that sector.
Nice.
Yeah. And besides the league, which there's also a Tuesday call that I'm on every week with a bunch of New York City venues. The league is also on that call, but there's also a bunch of other venues, rehearsal venues and performance venues. And we started meeting right away in March, and we've been meeting every Tuesday since then, kind of talking each other off ledges, trying to help each other figure out what's going on. Nobody's giving us any information.
Interesting.
Even when they put out guidelines, they're very vague, and nobody defines any of the words in the guidelines. So we're kind of helping each other figure out what we're doing, trying to figure out a community standard, an industry standard for various things, and just figure out what it is that we can and can't do. We helped each other figure out the PPP thing when that was still around. We're helping each other figure out our Con Edison thing, your PG&E, our electric. Our electric company seems to be going a little crazy this week and sending out some insane bills. I don't really know. We're trying to figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah. So just helping each other solve problems and find
That's
out what
it.
are the problems, helping each other, helping each other emotionally in dealing with our various landlords. We all have different
Yeah.
landlord situations, and that's, I mean, I'm sure in LA it's very similar, but for us that is, by far our biggest expense always.
Yeah.
So just trying to figure out together. It's wonderful. I've been talking to my peers more in the last few months than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of silver linings in this gray cloud, and that is one of them. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I agree. And before we ask Bryan, how would you generally I don't want to put you on the spot of representing all of New York City independent theater, but how do you feel in terms of people are there a lot of venues at risk of closing? Is there hope and optimism at the end of the tunnel, or is it where are you in that up and down?
There's hope. And there's optimism, and there's despair, and there's disaster. Basically, it's all about the landlords.
It's all about the landlords.
It's all about the landlords. The folks that will survive are the folks that have landlords that understand, and realize what's happening.
Yeah.
The ones that have disappeared already are the ones that had landlords that didn't. They just sent them eviction notices, or not eviction notices. They couldn't, but we're like, we're going to collect all this money when this is over. So give us money or get ready to get out when we can legally do that.
Right.
And the ones that are still around are the ones that have a conversation, that can have a conversation.
Yeah. The conversation is important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And there must be something with Tuesdays because the LA Big Theater Community Meeting is also Tuesdays. You guys should get together and do a cross-pollination.
World Fringe also. The
World Fringe.
I don't know what it is about Tuesdays.
That's 8:00 in the morning in LA. I've made a few of those. Those are early. So Bryan, tell us a little bit about the Tuesday meetup. And there is a 506 group called Tipola that I think they meet once a month or something like that. Yeah. Not as much, but you're part of another group of artistic directors in LA that meets on Tuesday. We want to talk a little bit about that and what's going on there.
Well, we started that right at when everything shut down. Gary Grossman at the Skylight, he's kind of runs Tipola as well, and he's a good organizer, and they started having these weekly meetings, and I wanted to chime in and be a part of it as well. And it's grown to about had maybe a handful when we started. Now it's about 65 theaters that are attending this meeting every Tuesday. And same thing, it's a support group, and they're all type A individuals needing to create. And so everyone needs projects. And so we've been racking our brain to try and come up with a way to do this. And, the biggest hurdle was overcoming this resistance to camera and streaming and all that stuff, and how that's going to work. And then, of course, Zoom was a big part of that, and still is, with people reaching out to their constituents through, readings and things like that to keep interest going and keep connected with their audience. Our situation, we also develop a lot of new plays, not a lot of new works. We also have a writers group that does a Zoom thing as well, both in New York. The Actors Gym is both in New York and LA. And so different nights for those kinds of things. So it's still developing in that. But, our situation is production and solo production. Everybody's trying to figure out their own niche and their own situation. Ours has been doing a lot of solo shows, even though we do a lot of huge productions. This whole situation just went really tightened focus to let's just keep doing solo shows as long as we can. Because it's as I was saying the other day, it's we have three strikes against us. We have a ensemble-based medium in front of an audience in a building, enclosed building, and that just is death for theaters. And I think that's what everybody's trying to deal with all of the big ones, South Coast Rap, all the big regional theaters, everybody's trying to figure that out because of the art form itself is set up like that.
So are you guys coming together then, like in New York, to solve the? I mean, is there this I know you're working on like a big project. I don't know if you can talk about that, but is there the same, like you're talking more than you've ever talked before, and there's a real sense of community problem solving?
Yeah, I mean, yes, for sure. But for me, see, I'm not a producer. I'm not I mean, I have to be out of necessity, but I'm not really a business guy. I'm an artist. And so these guys, a lot of times, as directors and producers seem to be, they're like college professors and teachers and, really great administrative minds. And, my situation is, how can I keep creating theater? And how can I keep doing shows? And so I'm more of just observing and listening to all of their situations, because a lot of what they talk about isn't applying to me because of the nonprofit thing. But I'm there to help with, live streaming information and stuff like that. But they have a couple of guys that are pretty up on their streaming that are being the technical advisors, because they know that stuff. Even though my theater is doing so much of it, I certainly can't talk technically too much about it. I mean, I can somewhat. But not certainly, like these guys can, because they're tech geeks. It's just what they do and what they love. But that's just something, that I learn more every day about it. And I just think the advantages far outweigh the negatives. And it's just changing people's mind. We had to have something like this, something drastic, to kind of push the technology, into the next level. We were already doing it.
Yep.
Certainly this kind of boom, it's like really forced everyone to kind of deal with this technology and whether or not it was something, and we had to. There was no choice. And luckily we were already set up, or else I wouldn't be talking to you right now. It'd be over for us for sure. And so that's kind of where we're at. Desperation is a real motivator, and dark nights of despair are quite the motivator for us to create stuff that will help us survive. And that kind of has kind of been, in a way, like Erez was saying, I'm certainly talking to more people, having more Zoom meetings, talking about what we do than I ever did before, because I'm just so busy doing it. We had, like you were saying, we had shows every single night. I was at the theater every night. Doing some sort of show, and you can't even go see shows. And I'm a big theater whore. I love seeing theater, but I can't see it except because I'm doing so much of mine. So that's one drawback. But certainly now in retrospect, it's a good problem to have, and it's sad to have to go into the theater and just see it empty and nobody in the seats and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I will echo the silver lining that you mentioned. This came up with a talk with Peter Kuo and Ashley Tata a couple episodes ago, where all this stuff, like you said, all this stuff has been here, and we did need this pandemic to kind of thrust this upon the theater community. And there are some really great elements that have come up. I mean, I know some theaters have been fighting it, but have you guys seen like an increase in audience from around the world? Are you seeing press reviewing these shows? Like, what have been some of the extra silver linings, as you Erez would say, about doing streaming and getting your space out there?
We've been in the New York Times twice in the last 2 months. We haven't been in the New York Times twice in the last 2 seasons. So that's an upside.
Wow.
We've had people doing shows in our venue from all over the world. We've got somebody from New Zealand doing our open mic now, and he's been on a few of our other shows. It was good. We had performers from Canada, from LA, from England, from all over the place. We normally wouldn't be able to do that. Our immigration system makes this very difficult. Now we can, wherever you are, we can do a show with you, which for me has been such a pleasure. I mean, it's nice to be able to send our shows out to more audiences around the world, but for me, it's really nice to be able to bring in artists from all over the world.
Yeah.
Do shows in our whatever venues these are.
Yeah. Bryan, are you finding the same?
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. I mean, we're doing a thing with the LA Women's Theater Festival in December and having those exact things. We've done some of those remotes where people are bringing in a live feed from somewhere else and doing that. And, that's exciting. And that's where the creativity, so, kind of like what people have been trying to do with Zoom and all the creativity that can go into that.
Yeah.
And it changes daily. Being able to put virtual backgrounds behind the actors and stuff like that. But I think the biggest challenge with that is because if you have more than one cast member, the Brady Bunch grid, as they call it, is the really only way you can kind of perform. And solo show is already performed to the fourth wall, into the camera, or right to the left or right of it.
Yeah.
And it helps deal with that situation. So that's why we're just dealing with that, because we don't have to deal with profiles or over the shoulder shots or stuff like that. So that's how we're kind of dealing with that, because what we were saying is that more than the technical aspects is the theoretical aspects of this whole thing about capturing what theater does that film and TV does not. Theater is still the purest form of storytelling. It still happens in the minds of the audience. So you're telling them the story and it happens in their mind. They're creating all the images, as opposed to film and television. You're editing to various shots to help tell the story. So, if this could be done still through a camera situation and still capture that intimacy, that's a win-win for everybody. It's never going to substitute a live performance. And I have a feeling that down the line, when it's allowed back, it'll be like a special situation to be able to go to a live event and watch live people do live stuff. Oh my God, there's live people speaking. Type of thing. And that was, hopefully cause a resurgence in attendance. But, it's we have to hold on to what we do best in theater and not try and, go into something else. And I think that's what keeps us in this arena. If we can just match the pay of that, and I think streaming can do that, then all of a sudden we're in the same arena as film and television as far as pay rate goes. We're already there with content and all of that, and quality of the actors, etc. But the pay is still the one thing that kind of keeps us, as an outsider looking in. But I think this can really help, because even equity, full stage pay isn't really enough overall for a true living. And so even the big theater LORC contracts, it really just comes down to like $100 a performance, and that's SAG works $1,000 a day instead of $100 a day. And so if there's somewhere we can get in the middle of that and be $500 for a stream or something like that, then all of a sudden it changes the game, and actually actors can have another way to make a living. And actors right now, oh my God, we need it so badly, it's not even funny. So I really think it could be that.
Great. Sorry to interrupt. In regard to that, it's a great point, and I think we all would like to see numbers like that. And this definitely opens the books for that. But in the reality of what you're doing now, and I know you've been playing with the model for a bit, I mean, are you seeing numbers that could hit 500 per stream?
Well, it could. I mean, it's certainly. Okay. I mean, it's paying for itself. It's paying the actors depending on how many tickets they're able to. Okay. Ranges anywhere from 50 to 150 paid, tickets and stuff, and we have a very cool split with them. And I've had actors take home $1,000 from their shows, and that's great. That's unbelievable, and that's what we all want. I mean, as an actor myself, we all want that. We all want a good living for actors and what we do, this seems to be one of the ways that we can do that. So that's why I'm excited about it, because that's what's important, is compensating artists for their work,
And it's great that you're finding that, because I know a lot of people are giving it away. I think there's a hybrid thing that I'd like to, a lot of donations. And I've heard actually from artists that the donation jars can do pretty well. Yeah. That people are kind of giving it. Erez, you mentioned some ticketing events.
We do a combination. There's some shows that are just ticketed. There's some shows that are not at all ticketed and just donations. And there's some shows that do both. for all our shows, nowadays, if you want a free ticket, you can get one.
Right.
If you don't have a job, if you're a performer that is not performing, if you want to see our show and you can't afford it, you can always see our
Come
show.
see the show.
Right.
And that's great. There isn't like a limit of seats.
Right.
We're not like giving
Right.
away something
Yes.
that we can't give to somebody else. It's
Right.
wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to, the hybrid situation where we can have a small number of people in the audience and a larger number of people viewing from home.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we're trying. Yeah.
I met with architects today. And
let's talk about this. This is great.
They were telling me we're going to be able to get 30 people into our 99-seat venue.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not getting 30 people in there. That's terrifying. No way. I know you're telling me it's okay, but that doesn't sound okay. At this point, I'm just thinking in terms of an audience of 10, maybe 15, 20 tops.
Yeah.
And then you have that live interaction there,
Yeah.
You'd be, filmed in front of a live theater audience, and then other people, an unlimited number of people, can see it with the energy that the actor gets from the people in the house.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a very different thing from what it is now.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, but Bryan, you also have like a 99-seat house. Have you started looking at the physical distancing?
I can fit, with the 6-foot situation, I can fit 20 people in my space. I have a little bit more than a bigger space than most our size.
Yeah.
But 20 seats can be used, and be socially distanced 6 feet apart, and stuff like that. So exactly what we were just talking about. A mix, a hybrid of. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Possibly during the festival, that we can start bringing it, selling 10 to 20, live tickets, and then the rest all go onto the stream. And again, because there's no limit to that, that's why it can change the game. I think it's just the sheer numbers.
Right.
And that's what I think can happen. So yeah.
Just going back to the seats quickly, Erez, was the 30 based on the fact that did you remove the seats from that space, and were you doing it, or are the seats still there and that was just counting off?
No, there's no seats in either of our venues. They're all gone. No more seats. We're reformulating the seating chart from scratch. The 30 is based on seating mostly in pods. It's not 30 seats separated from each other.
I see.
Right.
30 people in groupings. One, two, three, four.
Yeah, I see.
You bought your tickets together and you came. Like if you just had dinner together and you're coming to see the show, we're not going to make you sit 6 feet.
Right.
You're together. We just need to make you sit apart from everybody else.
Yes.
And I imagine, and not to get too much into this, because Erez mentioned, or one of you mentioned early spring. Broadway's closed till January. Nobody really knows. But I remember in the beginning, theater groups talking about hand sanitizers and spray mists and all that. And it's probably good psychologically to talk about that and have a preparation. But I imagine there's going to be a lot more thinking and talking once that opens of how are you going to manage people coming in. Talk about onboarding. Like you're really going to have to know who's coming into the theater, how many people, all of that.
We now legally have to take down information from everybody who comes in. Their exposure situation, their contact information, and their temperature. So if we find out that somebody has COVID, we can go back to that night and contact trace quickly and easily. But we have to check everybody's temperature as they walk in. We have to find out who they are, how to get in touch with them later, and then have them answer a series of questions like, have you been outside the tri-state? Yeah.
And you started that now. So you're doing that currently with just staff and people, or is that when you get
staff? We don't need their contact information, but we need to check their temperature, and we need them to sign in the log that this is when they came in, this was their temperature, there's been no change to their exposure situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they doing that kind of contact testing, Bryan, in LA that you know of?
No, we're not at that. We're not.
You're not that.
Here, no, nobody's in the space at all. Nobody's coming in yet. All that stuff can change because I think that the reality really is that things aren't going to change until there's a vaccine. I mean, that really is the factor. And there can be a lot of things you can do, and certainly we do all that with the distancing, the masks, the hand sanitizer, the gloves, and all that. You know, we are 15 feet away from the performer when they're on stage, so we're all, you know, safe and all that. But once you deal with the public, that's the big
that's going to be
situation, an unknown factor that we're going to have to deal with because they, you know, whether it be some people were talking ultraviolet light, some people are talking about, you know, spritzers that are at the doorway. There's mats. There's, you know, but like the drag is what everybody's afraid of is what happened with the restaurants out here, which is they needed all that stuff. So a lot of restaurants spent about $100,000, a lot of money to get that all ready, and then reopened, and then they had to shut back down because they reopened too quickly, and that killed them. That was a lot of money.
Destroyed
lost.
It.
And
you
so
know that UV
having to do all that stuff, you know, and UV now is not necessary. It's not safe, and you know that people don't really know exactly what will do all that except what we're doing now. So once you need people, that's why the plexiglass divider idea came in, and you know all that kind of stuff. But frankly, you know, a group inside yet is way off.
Let's forget it.
Yeah,
Erez, you were going to say?
I was looking into all the UV and the ionization and all these things, and you know, from everybody I've talked to, has been a lot of people and a lot of experts and a lot of doctors. Fresh air, that's the thing. We're now like, you know, we're figuring out a system to just suck fresh air into the room. We're putting in exhausts, intakes and exhausts, and we're setting up a system where all the volume of air in the space can be replaced in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. We're putting an exhaust vent right above the stage. So the actors are the most dangerous part of the equation. You know, the audience will come in, they'll have their mask on. They're not a danger to anyone as long as they're sitting there with a mask on.
Right.
The actors are not sitting there with a mask on. They're working. They're working hard. They're breathing hard. They're projecting. They're spitting. They're you know, like that's like going out there. So we're gonna have a big vent right above the stage, just suck everything out.
That's great.
And that's on stage. That's on stage. That's not even talking about the issues backstage. You know, where you've got everybody cramped, and I mean that's why it's such a difficult thing to figure out because you know, like you said, the actors on stage interacting with each other, spitting, etc., and then they go backstage. And you know that's another situation. So
backstage we can figure out. We can easily have 3 people backstage sectioned off from each other.
Oh yeah.
But that's it. Any more than that, it becomes a problem with a bathroom and with sink access and all that.
Right.
But we can have 3 people there, sectioned off, and that's it. We won't be able to have more than 5 people on stage anyway if they have to maintain distancing.
Well, we're even thinking of stuff like, you know, mobile dressing rooms, meaning in their car. They're outside in their car getting ready, and then the stage manager will text them, you know, 5 minutes before they're ready to go on, and they're just maybe 20, 50 feet from the back door of the stage, and they can just walk right in and walk right on stage without any kind of contact or any of that stuff. So that's, you know, when you've got like 6 or 7 performers that have to come in and do, you know, a single piece of text over the course of a night, say a night of monologues or something like that. We're talking about that stuff as well, and being able to prepare and wait in their cars rather than backstage in the dressing room. So, you know, all those kind of ideas are being thrown out for possibilities.
I'm looking at building a plexiglass cube for our smaller space. In the smaller space, if the actor is on stage, 20 feet is the back of the house. So if the guidelines ends up being around 20 feet from a performer to an audience member, I don't have it.
Right.
So in the smaller space, we're looking at. I think this is what's going to happen. We're just going to build an 8 by 8 foot plexiglass cube with ventilation to exhaust the air out, and a feed from the AC to the air in. And the performer is just going to be in the cube, and the audience members will be able to sit around the cube and no danger there.
Wow.
That's going to be, I really hope we can do that. That's fun to play with anyway. So we'll see how that.
Well, if you end up doing that, I want to get you back on the show with pictures of that, because that would be amazing to see.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, and I've also got to add, and this was echoed, I don't know if he's still out there in the audience, by Peter Michael Marino and Andrew Schmedeke on our first episode. The amount of creativity. I mean, thank God we are all artists coming up with ways of doing this and attacking this, because we are being pushed creatively on how to do it. And you two exceptionally, in terms of not artistically, not just worried about the box, but how are we going to handle our venues? How are we going to keep it safe? And you guys look actually excited when you talk these ideas. I know they're costing you money and time, and it's not what you signed up for, but do you find your creative spirit is still being fueled by this, and this is a fight you are enjoying fighting?
Work is more interesting than it's been in years. And I got to tell you, and you mentioned Peter Michael Moreno. He's been at the top of this game since since March. He has been so much fun working with on these new ideas.
Yep.
And it's individual artists like this that are, looking at the situation and saying, okay, this is it.
Do it.
What am I going to do with this? What interesting thing am I going to do with this? Always a pleasure to work with people like that.
Always. And in fact, if you want to catch them, if you go to our YouTube channel for Combined Art Form, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But the first episode live streaming has Peter on it, and it's a really informative. He was on the vanguard of live streaming in terms of an artist who just pivoted like in 2 weeks. It was really wonderful to watch him. It's
the first one to do a live show from New York City after the lockdown.
I think you may be right. But then on the flip side, over on the West Coast, Bryan, also you started your streaming, and I kind of know the answer to this question. Are you going to continue doing all of this once the theaters are back open? Streaming is part of your life now.
Yeah, it is. It won't be all of it, but it'll still stay. I mean, there's no reason not to. And I think it's got a lot of positive repercussions rather than negative. And I really do think there's a place for it. And yeah, absolutely, we're going to keep doing it and keep on streaming.
Keep on streaming. You gotta get t-shirts. Erez, how about you?
Definitely. I mean, one of the things I'm most looking forward to is finally being able to have our work accessible to people for whom our space is not accessible. We're in very old venues, landmark buildings, and just impossible to make ADA compliant. And it's hard. We've been, I've been there. It's been over 20 years, and some of the artists that I started with, they physically can't make it into the space anymore. It's awful, personally, and I'm very excited to be able to finally have a setup where if you can't make it in, we can make it to you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of that, I want to bring up your information. Do you want to give us a quick promotion about your shows coming up?
So we have 4 shows that run regularly now every week. There's the Tuesday night open mic that hasn't skipped a beat. We didn't even miss one performance of that one. Every Tuesday night, 9:30. That one is on Zoom. We have on Wednesday night, Funny Women of a Certain Age. Used to be 3 comics and a host, now only 2 comics and a host, and while we're figuring out the air ventilation stuff. That's a great show. All female comedians over the age of 50. we always have at least 100 years of comedy experience on stage. It's a wonderful show.
That's great.
On Friday at 6 o'clock, we have Frigid Fridays, and that's kind of a smorgasbord of all the stuff that we're doing. A lot of wonderful stuff, a good mix of pre-recorded and live work, and that feeds into our 8 o'clock, the reparations show, which we opened on Juneteenth this year. That's an awesome show. It's BIPOC performers are the only ones that get paid on this show. All the white performers donate their time, and we have a different host every week, and the host curates the show, and they get paid relatively well. They have a budget to pay their performers.
Nice.
They curate the show. Each host curates their own show every week, and those have been amazing. Really,
that's great.
What a lineup. We started it June 19th, and we had it budgeted through August, and we just budgeted it through December. So at this point,
good.
Through 2020, every Friday night at 8 o'clock.
All right, and check out the website for that. That's great. Bryan, what do you got going on over at the Whitefire?
Well, right now we're in the middle of Streamfest. We've got 2 more weeks of that, and then in September we open Black Voices Solo Theater Festival, which will be streaming as well. All Black artists doing that, and then that takes us into the end of the year. And then, of course, in January we start Solo Fest again. I can't. It's mind blowing, frankly. And then we'll be doing that. So that's kind of what hopefully we'll be able to make it through and keep alive, and hopefully there's a pot of gold on the other end of that rainbow, and we'll be able to hang in there long enough to kind of see that come to fruition. We started the streaming in middle of May, and have streamed over 25 full-length solo productions. And, we've got another probably 30 or 40 Black artists coming to do theirs. And
it's great.
That's kind of what we're going to be doing for quite a while, just solo theater, and trying to keep everybody, working creatively, and, trying to work out that they're compensated for it as well. So that's great. That's our goal.
Part of that's great. And part of that is through your site, you can get to the Vimeo account, both of your sites, if you wanted to see any of that paywall stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Is available there too. That's wonderful.
The Whitefire, the website right there, and you can peruse our theatrical buffet, as it were, and see live stuff, but also see stuff that we have archived now as well. So. Okay,
great. Well, all that is great. Is impressive that you are programming so much material, even though we were all sheltered at home. And really, thank you for all you're doing to keep the fight going. I know it's not tough. Landlords are a big issue. Unions are a big issue. But just hearing now and seeing your energy and creativity, I know it's kind of a dire time, but there's a hope. I feel a good, positive, creative spirit happening. So thank you for being a part of that. And afterwards, if you guys could join me backstage, we'll have a drink in the backstage room right after the credits roll, and we'll talk some more. Sorry that the rest of you can't join us, but do join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We've got a really exciting new show tomorrow. I'm very happy to be having Marie Cisco and Bruce Lemon Jr. on the show to talk about accountability, hashtag BLM. Marie wrote the accountability list for theaters, and Bruce Lemon is a host of Unheard LA, and we're looking forward to that conversation. So join us back here at 6 p.m. tomorrow. If you do subscribe, we'll keep you updated. We're going to be having 2 or 3 shows this week. We got some more venues next week from San Francisco, so hopefully you guys will come check us out. Again, thank you very much. Erez, Bryan, a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.